Welcome to Email After Hours by Senderscore, powered by Validity.
We're your hosts. My name is Guy Hansen.
And I'm Danielle Gallant, and this is Email After Hours. Today, we're exploring the virtuous circle between CRM data and email marketing. How better customer data drives more relevant experiences, which in turn encourages customers to share more, even richer data about themselves.
That's right. Joining us today, we've got Lisa Wester, Senior Manager of Global Marketing Automation at Copeland. Lisa leads a global marketing automation team focused on scalable, data-driven lifecycle experiences. Wow, that's a mouthful. Powered by Salesforce Marketing Cloud and a deeply integrated MarTech ecosystem. Lisa, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited for the conversation.
Nearly always, I'm connecting with our guests for the first time for the podcast, but we got to meet in person pretty recently at Salesforce Connections in Chicago, which was lovely.
It was great seeing you in person too. I loved it. I attended the session and I got to meet you and stop by the booth. It was great.
Lisa, let's for the benefit of our audience, let's start with some context and just tell us a little bit about your company's backstory. So who you are, what you do, and also the story of how what was previously Emerson became what is now Copeland.
So Copeland actually is a company that is over a century old. We've been around for a very, very long time. And what we do is we provide sustainable comfort solutions. So think of industrial, commercial, residential, and what am I missing? Cold chain. So all our, kind of different channels that come in. But we actually, Copeland was spun off, I should say, from Emerson back in 2023. And we became our own standalone company again. We are still backed by Blackstone. So it's actually been a very, very fun process. A lot of we now have more agility. We have now more just opportunities. It's kind of fun to be part of a standalone company and get to do get to kind of explore a little bit more. I've been with Copeland since 2018, I think, so almost 8 years, right? And I lead right now the global marketing automation team. I've been in this role for about 3 years. History before that, I've always been in like either a marketing automation consulting role or kind of like a business analyst or admin. So I'm really, really enjoying this role right now. I get to, where I'm at, I get to help make decisions on lead processes and data engagement and tools and honestly get to share all my knowledge with my team and any other people, within the marketing and business throughout the business. So
you've got insight into like all of the nitty gritty, all of the good elements of email marketing. That is for sure.
Yes. It's taken me a long time to get there, mind you, but yeah.
I can't imagine the repository, the knowledge that you have in your brain. So on that note, actually, a part of what you've worked through was a migration from Oracle Eloqua to Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And Guy and I love a good migration story, always. Hopefully, always ends on a good note with a positive reputation. Tell us a little bit about it, how it went for you, some of the challenges that you had to deal with there.
This was back, so it was 2023, took over the team. So about 2024, we actually were using two systems. We were using Salesforce Marketing Cloud and we were using Eloqua, different parts of the business, right? We're a large company. Like I said, we're 18,000 employees, over 40 plus countries, right? So there's a lot going on. So we needed to combine instances. It was making it hard for workflow and to share data and to get a really, kind of good insight on who our customers were and things like that. And plus, just for my team, you were dealing with two ecosystems and it was a lot going on. What we did is we decided to go to Marketing Cloud. We're a Salesforce, business now, so everything needs to kind of live within that ecosystem. So what we did is we looked at all our audience in Eloqua. We ran them through Bright Verify initially, right? And then we took the people who, yes, we did. Yeah. So we took the people who were active in that business unit and we looked at them again. We're like, okay, do they have a Salesforce ID? Yes or no? Or do we need to create a new Salesforce ID in Salesforce? CRM is our database of record. So think of it that way, right? So we use Marketing Cloud, but honestly, all that data comes from CRM. And we need to have, with that, we use the ID, which is the unique identifier. So we needed to get them into Salesforce, but I would say half of that audience that could migrate, had the possibility of migrate, did not have enough key data points to migrate, right? So within our Salesforce instance, we have several required fields, and they may not have had, I don't know, a phone number or a title, or it might not have had like what channel they belong to. Some of them we didn't even know what they were, were they cold chain or were they commercial, right? So there was a lot of missing data points. We honestly looked at it as a re-engagement opportunity. And we then took and created a form, a pretty good form. It was like a lead form, right? And we invited this group of people that we didn't know anything about them. And we said, hey, you know what, if you want to continue hearing from us, would you take some moment and complete this information? We didn't give them anything. We just basically said, if you want to continue hearing from us, please fill out, give us a little bit more insight. It worked. It works great, right? Because then we got them in, we re-engaged them, we got them to complete their permissions again, as well as give us the insight we were looking for. We knew that those people actually had higher intent and they wanted to hear from us. Now, we did receive about a 4% conversion, but that's okay. It's quality, not quantity, really. And that was good. On the hindsight, also, we engaged those people that we did bring over too. We had some components we use the Litmus email design system. So we had a re-engaged component within that. So on the welcome journey, after they completed their information or any email we sent out beyond that, we always brought them back to the preference center so they could fill out that information. So it was good. It actually, we're getting ready to do that again. Believe it or not, we're doing another huge initiative. And part of that is a data cleanup and kind of trying to identify some missing key data fields. And just like this re-engagement process is probably going to be one of our work streams.
So the incredible thing is you sound like you actually had fun, like normally when Danielle and I talk to email marketers about migrations, they kind of wipe the sweat off their forehead and shiver a little. It sounds like you had it pretty well planned. Was there anything that didn't quite go according to plan? Sort of any unexpected hiccups as you went through the process?
My team had to learn a new EAT system. So that was part of it. It probably took a little longer, right? So my team, I have a team of 9 and only one of them was really trained at that point on Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So I had to bring them all along. That took a while. I wouldn't say it was a pain point. They thought it was a pain point. But in the hindsight, I think it went pretty well. You got to clean out data. Some of that stuff's been in there for a very long time. Some of these contacts were probably in there 10, 12 years, and they just weren't doing anything. It's almost like a refresh to get rid of.
Also, I think one of the key points that a lot of senders miss when they're going through a migration is that you have to do that data cleanup first. And so going above and beyond just the validation and actually seeking those, it's like a necessity thing. You had to get this information, but it also probably kicked off the migration on the right foot. And it kind of ties into this really interesting, broader philosophy that you've got behind your email program. You're not just using email to communicate with your customers, but to continuously enrich your customer data with the feedback that your email generates. So can you elaborate on that a little bit?
You can't have personalized content, right, if you don't have good data. And even now, more today, AI, everything's built off good quality data. So if your data is bad or dirty or missing, you really can't move forward. Our team sits between, we're in revenue operations, so we're a little unique sometimes with that. We're actually a part of the CRM team, kind of digital transformation, but we are kind of the glue between marketing and sales and all of that. And our key is to feed and drive insights as well to the sales team, so they can make better decisions and have better customer experiences, just as much is for us to personalize content, right? Send out a very good email. So there's unique ways. This is one of the I was just mentioning how we're getting ready to do another initiative. And part of that is we've identified a lot of key data points for this initiative to be successful. We've identified quite a few key data points that are missing, say 50% of people without this type of, insight or these data fields. And we're looking at ways to get that in, to bring that and, execute on that. Some of that might be they're in a journey and we know that journey, they're engaging with certain product information. Well, we can take that engagement that they're working on, and it might be tied to a CO2 product or, some thermostat, right? We can take that information, we take those insights and we populate Salesforce with it, right? And many times, the insights that we learn. We also are doing a very good job now. All our forms are collecting those key data points, right? Some of the old data may not have those. These people have been into the CRM system for quite a while. So we're taking title, we're getting creative, and we're kind of taking job title and we're breaking that down into populating seniority level and department group, right? We're getting creative to be able to personalize future content, right? Future campaigns, future journeys, because we need that data to be able to send them down that lead pipeline, right? That lead funnel to make sure we can execute accordingly. And then also, when they do MQL, that sales rep needs to have that insight. So it's even better for them, as well as even customer data. We do this to, some of the campaigns that we're getting. We have customers, we send them content too. So trying to collect that information and insight just to build a better profile.
There's some real complexity going on there. And I think, one of the things that fascinates Danielle and myself about your world of email at Copeland is also how many different programs are existing under one roof. I mean, you've got consumer messaging through OEM communications, and then you've got these really highly technical legal notices. Does this sort of, sheer mix and variety of different communications make your life a little more tricky?
It does. But I will say, anything we've learned, or especially the last 3 years, is standardization is key. So really, if you have standard data fields, if you have the standard insights put together, it makes that communication a little easier. It makes putting it together a little easier. But we're set up a little differently with the ecosystem. My team is really only in charge of execution, right? So we help with insights, we give what we need, and we try to make that experience better for the subscriber. So when they get emails from us, it's good. Or we have that data that can lead to different insights for a dashboard or sales, like I've talked about, right? So it does make it harder, but trying to I think the hardest part is trying to bring everybody along with you. I think that's the biggest challenge. But we're trying really hard to standardize everything, right? Standardize forms, standardize fields, standardize documents, standardize expectations, standardize how people work with us, how we receive intake, all of that. I will say it's getting easier every day, but no, it's not. It's not a cakewalk.
You're making it sound so easy there.
I know. I think it's the attitude that you're bringing. It's the levity. It makes it sound like, oh yeah, we have. Well, like you said, these are obviously standardized forms are going to help you with your data accuracy, being able to make sure you can articulate that personalization and segmentation more effectively. But you have the challenge of extremely dynamic, personalized customer experiences. I think that your B2C programs generate over 1 million content variations.
They do. So some of you may have heard of sensing thermostats. So really, that's taking usage data, and we have to pull that into like a usage report, send that out each month. So that's really we're working, think about all our customers, they're receiving emails, but it's unique to their individual person, right? It's unique to their individual household. So it's using AmpScript, honestly. That program's been running for about 8 to 9 years now. And we use AmpScript to make it happen, but we really collaborate with product marketing, sales, and the marketing automation team, our CRM team, to kind of get that out the door. We've got it down to a pretty smooth process right now. AmpScript and 2 really good data extensions and tying relational data together makes it a little easier. We're actually taking that kind of using AmpScript to customize other emails. There's times where we have to send an email out in multiple languages. Very often we're doing Spanish and English. Sometimes we're translating in Chinese or there's all kinds. Again, there's up to 14. I think it's 11 or 14. I can't remember what the number is that we're using. So my team has really come up to speed the last couple of years to be able to do that. They couldn't do that 3 years ago. So a lot of training. That wasn't possible in Eloqua, right? When we were in that unit. But with Marketing Cloud, the last 3 years, they've been able to do that.
And then, of course, there's your B2B communications, and they've got their own very unique set of challenges. I think you've explained to us, on the one hand, you need to communicate often highly technical information and getting it right. But you've still got the standard email top marketing challenge of keeping your subscribers engaged as well and serving them up with entertaining and interesting content. So how do you strike that balance between utility and engagement with your B2Bs?
We get a lot of different intake. We work with marketing leads. We work with product owners. We work with all that. Honestly, the Litmus email design system is something that's really helped us do that. We can give them a framework, again, a standardization, and they'll give us the content. Sometimes it's not the way we want it to be, right? But we have a standard and a format, and we help them in essence and guide them along the way to make sure they're providing those H1s, those H2s, and you write in a different way. We at least try to guide them along the way, I think, as much as we can. My team, again, is in charge of execution, but we try to educate where we can across the board. But that Litmus template is really been a game saver for us because we don't have not everybody's going to design a custom email, right? So we're able to take those components in that modular design and make it happen. One thing we're getting ready to do, we've done a little bit of it, but we've actually taken our Litmus template and we're putting it in Jasper. So Jasper is like a content tool. It's to write content across all the marketing channels. And we're taking our template so then they can actually have more standards within it. So they can write it and they can say, give me an H1. It has to be within like 90 characters, right? That type of thing. And it kind of keeps it within that framework and creates that for them. So that tool has been used a little bit. We're getting ready to do more of a bigger launch across our marketing channels and our, people who give us emails just to help them out a little bit more.
I want to go back to something that you mentioned a couple questions ago, which is that you are sending emails in multiple languages. So you operate in multiple different countries, and every new relationship, as we all know, starts with a welcome journey when it comes to email. And many email programs treat onboarding as like generic, thank you for subscribing, but your onboarding, it's very highly differentiated by country, by job role, by business function. So kind of two questions. Why is this segmentation so important? And has it proved fruitful for you to have that level of segmentation?
Yes, it has. And it is very important because that's the first time, that's somebody's first impression of you, right? You've only got so many chances to kind of build that relationship and build trust within the inbox. And what we're doing right now is we're actually spending a lot of time trying to evaluate when is the best moment to send that email, right? We do a lot of trade shows, a lot of events. So they've met us in person, right? So what do you say to kind of continue that relationship and help them go along the journey? I would say it can be a challenge too, because not all, you said countries and regions and challenges, we deal with a lot of big trade shows, big events, but then we also have some little smaller ones that may not get that onboarding experience or it could be a little bit better, right? So, but what we try to do is always recognize where it came from, always put it in their language if we know, we collect a lot of those key data points within our intake forms, so we take that data as much as possible and try to personalize and then put them down the journey, another journey, more of a nurture journey of what the insight they gave us. So try to help them, along the way and continue that engagement. I honestly think email campaign, the welcome journey is one of the hardest emails to write. I really do. I think it's so important. It has such a major impact, but it is such a challenge too, because you want to differentiate yourself, you want to personalize, and you want them to engage. Ann Handley, I always go back to a subject or a topic that Ann Handley, she always brings up, right? You need to write to an individual. And you need to, not necessarily the demographic or a section, right? But always write to that individual. That's helped us, I think, with our welcome campaigns or welcome journey, not less, what do they need to know? How are we going to build that relationship? How we can build trust?
That's right. And it's the old expression, isn't it? You never get a second chance to make a great first impression.
No.
As we were introducing today's show, we were talking about your philosophy, this idea that good email marketing generates great data from your customers that flows back into your CRM. You're almost creating this virtuous circle and then you go again. But what it does mean is, of course, you're pulling tons of data into your systems from forms and webinars and social apps and events and landing pages and even from WeChat in China. And by the way, not all of that data is neat and structured and pretty. So I know we've touched on a little bit of this already, but can you tell us any more in terms of some of the challenges around managing both the sheer volume and diversity of all this data that's coming into your systems every day?
I will say Data 360 is starting to help a little bit, right? So it's kind of pulling a lot of that different data from different sections to kind of tell us a little bit better story of the data that we do have. But standardization, going back to that, honestly, as much as possible, we try to keep like our eye capture template when we're at a trade show to match what we're collecting on the website. So we're trying to really standardize there and get that information into place. Same thing, even like WeChat. So we use a tool called Charket. Charket is actually pulling that data right from Salesforce, to standardize that. Like we're pulling them in. So we're trying to collect the information on all our intake and injection points, really making sure that we're, using that data and trying to harmonize it as much as possible to those standardizations. There are times, though, when it doesn't. So let's say we go to a trade show and that trade show, they didn't use iCapture. They may have used their own tool that is really, privy to that trade show. Latin America does that a lot, as well as India, right? So you're going to get those, and they're not going to do that direct connection into our CRM. So we have to take that data and we have to, make it pretty, let's say, or harmonize it. And we actually use demand tools for that. So demand tools is a big aspect for us. We are really, really using that to, take this data and make sure it kind of aligns and make assumptions. That example I gave earlier about this new initiative we're taking, and we're going to take job title and we're going to kind of break it out to populate seniority level and department group, because we have job title. It is a required field, but we don't necessarily have all that, seniority level department group. We're going to use demand tools for that. We're going to take it, big old Excel spreadsheet, make some assumptions and a little bit of queries here and there, and then use demand tools to repopulate.
You'll be happy if
CRM.
they're like my job title, where it's like senior email and deliver with like a breakdown.
Yes.
Exactly what you need. So, I mean,
Yes.
hopefully
Yes.
you've got a lot of job titles that are like that in your list.
Oh, yes.
You mentioned earlier, and we all know that this high quality customer data is essential for AI initiatives. That foundation has to be there, because if you're using bad data you're going to get weird AI assumptions. It's not going to be very good. So that will impact, of course, your scoring models that you use for engagement. And one of the questions that I'm always so interested to ask senders is, how are you compensating from an engagement perspective in a world where those traditional metrics are becoming less and less reliable?
It's very important you look at that end goal, right? So whatever that, especially with email, when you send that email out, we really I shouldn't say we have an issue with spam bots, but it's present in our, in our system. In fact, I think even Copeland does that. I think we actually check every single link that comes through. Right. So when you make your decisions, you can look at that. You can kind of look at trends over time. But more importantly is, did they complete the survey? So you look at the external goal. Did they complete the survey? We look at that. Did they go to the website and download a page? Did they complete a new form? Right. We kind of look at that. I think that's one way you have to do it. Look at the outcome on the back end. But also with our engagement, we determine intent a lot off of that. We ask questions even, or we look at ways, try to find unique ways. So if you're at a trade show and you seem like you're really engaged, you're going to go into Salesforce as somebody that has higher intent than somebody who just stopped by and let us scan their badge, right? I think looking at creative ways, looking at your data and how can you make decisions off of it, not just opens and clicks. You necessarily can't do that. I mean, you can, you're just not going to get very far, I think. So if you want a true picture, and again, we're not perfect on this. We are really working. This is just a focus of ours with commercial excellence to, take and capture a lot, better data. This new engagement scoring model that we've launched within the last 6 months, I would say was January was our first, initial launch of it. It does use Data 360. And with that, we're bringing in We're qualifying them based on who they are, right? Those demographic and firmographic, what size is their company, what's their seniority level, their department group, what sales channel are they in. We've taken that data and we've actually tied it to a lot of our back-end metrics. What are we seeing as truly for opportunities, right? We've scored based on that of who they are based on the opportunities that have actually converted and come to fruition. On the interest side, we're looking for that intent. We're building out the model so much so that we're even going to be able to personalize on our website. We're going to be sharing that data back and forth to where if you visit our website, we're going to know who you are. We're going to help serve up the information that is extremely helpful to you based on who you are. All of that data is pulled together in Data 360 and scored using their calculated insights, moving somebody, especially through the lead funnel. It takes a while. We're just learning. We're so much better off now than we were a year ago, So that's definitely happening. Again, and that's the fun part.
In that answer, you touched on the impact that spam bots are having on email metrics, especially opens and clicks. And I know it's a real problem for some of the customers that we talk to. But when we were prepping for today's conversation, you were telling us a little bit about how you actually been training ChatGPT to identify bot behavior patterns. And I'm fascinated in that, How are you going about that and what are you learning?
So what I did is I noticed that we were looking at analytics and I've seen it over time. I'm like, okay, these are definitely spam bots. We cannot report off of this. This is it's throwing our engagement off, especially if you try to use click-throughs and so forth to move somebody through a journey. So think about it that way, right? So you can get a false interpretation off of that. So we're looking at that and I'm like, okay, there's got to be a way that I can identify this. And I use, actually, if you look in Litmus too, it'll tell you like if somebody, you have some of that insights if you look at your Litmus analytics. But then I took on our marketing cloud and I ran a query. I actually typed it into ChatGPT. I said, all right, this is what I want to do. ChatGPT actually was like my marketing cloud solution. I almost started going there initially to like, I need fix with this query, right? I need to help it. And I'd be like, here's what I want to do. And it would pop it back. It was great for that. So I did the same thing. This was a couple of months ago and it kicked back a query and a formula, and I put it back in marketing cloud and I ran it against a lot of our high impact email. I really wanted to know what we were looking at. So it varies. We don't always have issues. Sometimes it's 1%. I've seen it as high as 12, right? For certain email campaigns. But you got to think we're communicating to B2B audiences. So we are high B2B, we're high manufacturing companies, and they're trying to clean house and make sure none of that is going to come into their systems. You're not going to have any bad malware or any type of spam issues coming in. So you just work around it. I think just knowing it's there, I think helps. And then really trying to make your decisions and based off of what converted, really true on the back end. Because people you can have a spam bot and they can still engage, that engagement still exists once that email is delivered. So that's where you look on the back end.
I was at a conference recently and one of the interesting talks was about spam bots and just that having one action within the email that triggers a journey or triggers even a purchase sometimes. So you can have whole relationships with like these spam bots where it seems like they're making a purchase.
As long as your bot doesn't escape from its sandbox and goes and hacks your competitor's website.
We've said this already, but despite how complicated so much of your email program is, complex, thoughtful, you always sound so excited and optimistic about the opportunities that are ahead. I want to ask just very basically, what's energizing you most about email right now?
Oh gosh, I honestly am so excited to just that lead life cycle. I think we're going to be expanding. We actually have a big workshop coming up with our marketing and revenue operations teams, which includes CRM and myself, and bringing in some focus and other people. But literally, we're going to start diving in to figure out how can we make this better? How can we build more standardized journeys that are still personalized, right? And then how can we fill that insight into our sales team? That's exciting. That data that we're collecting feeds Data 360, which then is going to feed Agentforce, which then allows our sales team to be able to just type in whatever they want and get answers and insights and make much better decisions. I shouldn't say make better decisions, but it makes it easier for them. right? Which all around provides a much better customer experience. So I'm excited for that. I think that's part of it. And again, like I said, I've always loved what I do. I've always loved being in this industry. I don't know why. I just do. It's happy. I don't know. People are just so nice. It found me, like everybody says that. It found me a long time ago, but it is fun right now.
We're excited too, and we'd love to carry on having this conversation with you for the rest of the day, but we do need to start closing things out. And we'll come back to the theme of what we've been talking about today. Let me ask you if you could give our listeners one piece of advice about what is clearly this highly symbiotic relationship between CRM, customer data, piece of advice that would change the way they approach their email marketing, what would it be?
I think if you look at your CRM, don't think of CRM as powering your email program. Look at truly, the data, the customer data that you collect is really kind of powering customer relationships. If you look at it that way, you're going to have the insights and the information to be able to personalize and to be able to help sales team do their job, right? If you just kind of change your mindset of thinking, just get this email out the door, but take the data that they give you and really use it to enrich your CRM. Those feedback loops exist, right? And use them for just creating better customer experiences. Look at your email program that way, I think.
Customer-centric, relationship-focused. I love it. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing this wealth of insights into your CRM strategy, your lifecycle marketing, your data architecture, AI, and what it really takes to build a scalable global email program. And if listeners want to connect with you or learn more about your work, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
LinkedIn is great. I think it's good. I will respond there.
Amazing. And to all of our listeners, be sure to tune in next time and hit subscribe so that you don't miss any future episodes. And of course, don't forget to visit senderscore.org for more resources to help you become a stronger sender.
That's right. And last word from my side, Danielle and I love our emails after hours guests. We're always on the lookout for new guests to join us for future episodes. So if you out there listening to us today want to join us for an upcoming episode, drop us a comment, ping us on LinkedIn, fill out the guest form that's linked to the show notes. We'd love to hear from you and put you in the hot seat sometime in the future. Thanks for listening today. We'll see you all again in 2 weeks' time. Bye now.
Thank you.
Be sure to tune in next time and hit subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And don't forget to visit senderscore.com for loads more great resources to help you become a stronger sender.
To all you sleepless senders out there, thank you for joining us after hours and see you next time.